Good morning or good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am here today and I'm delighted to have the opportunity to interview live someone that I admire very, very much. This is Padmanathan from ACWA Power. You're muted for now, Paddy. Let me just give the introduction, then I'll get into you. And this is a great opportunity to get to know a person that not many people have the luck to have maybe interacted with. A very popular person. As you know, he is the CEO of ACWA Power, which is a rising star in renewable energies and in power sector. And these live interviews as part of a larger program where we look at all aspects of renewable energy. As you know, you can join us for any others as well in our website. So let me tell you, in case you are the only person on earth that doesn't know what ACWA Power is a Saudi company. It was founded in 2004 and is operating in 10 countries and 3 continents. After 14 years of life, not only do they have their own very special business model, they have a winning rate on tenders of 2 every 3, which is really good, and we will ask Paddy about that later. And they have 27 gigawatts of power in excess of, and 2.8 million tons of desalinated water per day, but maybe Paddy can tell us exactly how much. And they're worth upwards of $31 billion US. So thank you very much, Paddy, for joining us and for giving us the time. We know you're very busy. So first question, I think you're unmuted now. Can we unmute Paddy, please? Thank you. So first question is, where have you been this week, Paddy? I know you travel a lot, so where have you been?
Thank you, Belen. I'm delighted to be with you. Thank you for including me in your series. So yes, no, it's been okay. So if I take the last 7 days, last week, Thursday, I was in Dubai. Friday, I was in Johannesburg. Saturday, Sunday in London. Monday morning, the whole morning, I was in Hague, the Netherlands. Monday afternoon in Cologne, Germany. Tuesday, Dubai. Wednesday, Riyadh, yesterday. And today I'm in Dubai. Now, yeah, look. So this is typical. Maybe this week was an extra sort of amount of travel, but no, typically I'm in a different place every day. Every day in a different week.
So that is an average for you then. So what do you do in your day-to-day?
Say it again, what did I?
What do you do in your day-to-day? Why do you travel so much?
Look, okay, that's a good question, yes. Particularly in this day and age of video conferencing and everything else, people have to sit back and say, okay, this is crazy. Why does this guy spend so much of time traveling? Well, look, you cannot, let's think about our business. Our business is in investing in power generation and desalinated water production assets. We are an operator at the core. We are not a financial investor who just sort of creates these things, develops these things, flips and runs to the next one. We are building a portfolio. We are in it for 100 years. Our assets need to, we develop them with a long-term mindset. They need to work forever. Now, but these are very large pieces of equipment that are spinning at amazing speeds. People don't really realize it. 60 hertz or 50 hertz frequency of electricity means that when you click the finger, that huge machine is spinning 50 or 60 times a second. It's unbelievable. Put together by a bunch of people. Why do you think it works? It shouldn't work. It doesn't work. But it does work because we produce electricity and desal water. So it's about making sure that we have fantastic relationships that with the whole supply chain, with all our partners, so that when things go wrong, as they do every day, we are able to jump right into the trench and fix it without being concerned about apportionment of blame and liability, with the full confidence that we can trust the other side, we can trust our partners, and then we can sort out the commercial mess later. So that's at the sort of worst end. The other end, in order to put together the best projects, you refer to us delivering a stunning winning rate, which is true. We have an amazing track record. Part of that comes from, it's not because of our brilliance, it's also, a lot of it is to do with the way in which we have been able to develop mutually trusting partnerships and convince our partners, supply chain, contractors, equipment suppliers, financiers, to work with us to our business model. All of that, cut a long story short, comes back to building and maintaining relationships. Dealing with problems on a face-to-face basis. It is very difficult to shake hands across a video screen. Yes, we're having a great conversation here. Part of the reason why, by the way, even this conversation probably can be done so efficiently is because you and I know each other. We have met each other enough times. It's tough. I think the future world is going to be, okay, we're embarking on something different now, but without wandering too much into that sort of new space, it's going to be very interesting as we become so, the younger generation, they're so involved in communicating through machines, communicating through the video screen. It's going to be interesting. And maybe, no big deal, they would develop their own models of contact and building that same quality of trust and partnership. But certainly, I'm 60 years old this year.
Keep those.
At my level, at my age, this is the technique that I know. And therefore, we end up traveling. And interesting enough, people at my level across the world in all these companies also come and visit us. So it's not as if we are running around and nobody else is. Everybody else is.
Excellent. So it's part of the job. Okay, a lot of traveling. So you were born in Sri Lanka. You are the eldest of 5 brothers. And when you were 13, the country was going through some tough times. So your parents decided they would move to Zambia, where there was more opportunities for them. And you lived there for 3 years in Zambia. And then you moved to the UK to do 1 year of studying, and then went to university. You attended Manchester University for civil engineering for 3 years, and then a postgrad in Lancaster University. So why engineering, Paddy? What is the main reason?
Good question. Okay, very simple answer at one level. From a very, very young age, I was very interested in making things. I was interested in models, mechano sets, making little radios. So it was all about, so there was a natural bias. At school, I was very good in mathematics. I was pretty lousy in many other things. The lousiest in language, actually. I managed to even fail French as a second language. When I went to Zambia, English became the main first language, and as a second language, I studied French, and I failed that. But having said that, so mathematics and physics were my hot subjects. So it all kind of truncated into something based in engineering. Quite apart from that, I'm originally from Sri Lanka. It's very typical. So in those days, and probably even now, across the world, people recognize the value of studies, value of doing something, learning. So definitely the Asian culture was, and pretty much is. So you either, the kind of preferred channeling of children is towards becoming a doctor. Now, if your kid is not smart enough or is not liking that aspect or that career choice, then it was very much a case of engineering or teacher. Those are the two other sort of, and then accountant. Anyway, engineering, teaching, and accounting probably in one basket. But it was definitely, if you can get everybody to become a doctor, that was everybody's dream. So
sounds like all of Asia, though.
I'm afraid I didn't fulfill, and none of my brothers fulfill my parents' real dream, I guess. To be fair, my parents didn't push that down our throat too much, but we all naturally gravitated. So I've ended up being the only engineer in my family. I've got 2 brothers who are accountants. I actually had one brother who was well advanced in studying for medicine. He was penultimate year when very tragically he died at the age of 21 of malaria on a rural health course. But then the youngest guy is in hotel. So we got a
bit of everything. And you settled in the UK after this as a consultant engineer, but you very soon saw that actually it was not what you imagined. You were given really small tasks. You couldn't see the projects as a whole. So you decided that you weren't in for that. What was your plan?
Yeah, look, I think in my youngest days, I said to I kind of became much more. So 2021, coming through university and then doing my postgraduate in business management at Lancaster, which was it was an interesting course because it was not just sitting in the university taking lectures. It was 1 week in university, 1 week in the field doing an assignment, coming back to the university for 1 week in attachment with a company, those kind of. So I had a huge amount of commercial exposure. And through all of that, by the age of 21, I had sort of 22, I had come to the conclusion that I was much more of a person who probably was more biased towards contracting, getting things done in the field, commercial, not just somebody who's going to sit at a desk and produce designs, drawings, and that kind of stuff. So, but in order to get your professional qualification as an engineer, you needed a 1-year design experience period. So, okay, I joined the UK, a design build company, sort of got on the desk to try and get this painful period over with. But then I found then sitting in the UK doing design was even worse at that time anyway. Today, I think it's a different world, because you ended up just designing the doorknob or some tiny part of something. So that wasn't so exciting. So I said I didn't in fact even finish the first year with IDC. I said, look, let me get out. Maybe overseas, I'll be given more responsibility. But I've got to get this design over with. So let me join a consulting firm. So I actually applied to a contracting company and a consulting engineering company. I got a job in both. I chose the consultant because I said, I want to get this painful experience over with. And completely coincidentally, I got sent to Zambia. It was a British consulting engineering firm. They had offices in Africa. They needed a graduate engineer in Zambia for a growing office. And they said, well, you've been in Zambia before, you go to Zambia. Said, fine. My parents by then were gone, but that was okay. So I went at a very young age of 22 as an expatriate, which is very unusual, to Lusaka, Zambia, on a 2-year contract. I wanted a 1-year contract because I only needed 1 year experience. They said, sorry, no, contracts are given in 2 years, whether you like it or not. You're going to pay for your passage to go out. Okay, fine. Okay, I'll accept 2 years. So that's the basis on which I joined them. But I actually never left them, as it turned out, for a long time.
So you joined for 2 years, but you stayed. And what happened to the MBA that never happened, Paddy?
Yeah, well, so I joined for 2 years, and my intention was I was going to do this engineering consulting assignment. I had a plan, but none of that worked. It's quite interesting how okay, and then sort of pretty quickly I decided, you know what, just go with the flow and let life take you. And okay, I'm not regretting it. Okay, maybe things might have gone differently at different times if I had taken different choices, but anyway, we are where we are. But so I don't regret any of it though. So my plan was finish the design experience, finish that contract, go to an MBA, and then properly set myself onto a management, commercial, whatever track. So I started to apply to Harvard, amongst other places. Got accepted. I was ready to go, and then, but just like a month and a half before, all ready to go, wrap up, this consulting engineering firm, another partner from another office came along and offered me an amazing job. Age of 24, he gave me the chance to become project manager, head of a very nice water transfer project in Botswana. That was to be done in a very short time frame. It was an emergency project to be executed within 8 months, a phenomenal amount of work. It was a huge responsibility and a fantastic challenge. So never want to turn down a challenge, always striving to achieve the impossible. I said, yeah, sure, okay, I'll do that. So wrote a letter to Harvard to say, can I please defer my, they said, I explained why. They said, yeah, no problem. This sounds like an exciting thing. Go do it. Fine. So I did it. But then when that assignment came to an end, another partner pitched up and said, you know what? I've got this amazing job for you in Thailand. Ah, man. Okay. So back again, I wrote to Harvard and said, look, they said, look, please, you do what you need to do, what you would like to do. Whenever you're ready, we'll always be here. You can reapply. Thank you very much. That was it. That was the end of that. I just rolled from one assignment to the next. I never left this firm for 24 years. This firm grew. I grew in the firm very quickly. I became a partner. I became a part owner. I then engineered the firm to be merged, to be acquired by a bigger British consulting engineering firm, Binney & Partners. And then I merged that. I was not involved, but Binney was acquired by a very large American multinational, Black & Veatch, an engineer constructor. And I ended up starting with a medium-sized consulting engineering firm in England, 14 odd years later, in a pretty large multinational operating across the world, an engineer constructor by the name of Black & Veatch. And within a year, I became a corporate officer in Black & Veatch and a partner there as well. And I left Black & Veatch by taking early retirement 24 years after I joined Bini at the age of 48 or something, 47.
What was your plan when you left Black & Veatch?
Oh, my plan when I so why did I leave Black & Veatch? I was a Grand Poobah in a fantastic company. Black & Veatch is a great company, and I was doing very well. I sort of evolved to do a whole range of things, from engineering to construction management, to even originating, design, build, fund, operate, or these concession outsourcing type of transactions. And that was a business unit I ran in Black & Veatch. So I had an exciting range of projects. But I was tired of being in such a large organization, in a very structured environment. And to be fair, Black & Veatch is, as big companies, they become risk averse. And I felt that, this was not, I was tired of it. So my plan was, and by then my stepson Colin had graduated, become a banker. So I said to Colin, I said, look, it's your time to now look after me. Thank you very much. I'm going to go do something that I want to do. That is, I develop something on my own. So my plan was to go and get into developing infrastructure, power, desal, water, whatever type of projects, infrastructure projects in Africa on a concession outsourcing basis. This was back in 2004, 2005. And there was a surplus to requirement consulting business unit within Black & Veatch. Well, the one that I had actually joined, that Black & Veatch was ready to get rid of. So I negotiated to buy that out from Black & Veatch and use that as my platform to do something and grow. So that was in 2004. And then I got doing something different.
Correct. You never got there. We'll get there.
I never got there. Just like my MBA, I never got there.
But whilst you were with J. Barrows, you were in 10 countries and you actually worked on projects in more than 25. So that is quite the big diversity. I think you've brought some of that with you to ACWA, right?
Yes, I guess so. I had a fantastic global experience. A lot of projects in quick succession, starting to manage business units, starting to manage multiple projects. Actually, as a family, we relocated many times, moving countries. I had a wonderful, adaptable wife and family who tolerated all those movements. At times, came to enjoy it. So I had this wonderful career across, in Africa, a lot of countries in Africa, Mozambique, Ethiopia, Malawi, Swaziland, South Africa, Mauritius, a wonderful time in Mauritius, expanding an airport, Uganda, and then Asia. I remotely did a job in China in those days, but Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, and then Cyprus. That was a nice time also, a 9-month assignment in Cyprus. And then, of course, toing and froing from the UK. From the age of sort of 16 or 17, from the age of 16, when I went to the UK became base. But as a family, we have lived in many countries around the world. So exciting range of projects, that's for sure.
Yeah, and the next thing I'm going to ask you is about the projects. We spoke a lot during the prep, actually, and just to find out, because Paddy's done so many things you cannot imagine. Their CV doesn't fit in a book, it's a yellow
I'm 60 years old, so what do you expect?
Well, still, for 60 years old, there's a lot of projects there. But there are 3 that call to my attention that I think we should share with people here. One is an airport in Botswana that I'd like you to tell us a little bit about, and it's just because it's very diverse. You've worked in a couple of airports, but most of the projects that Paddy did actually until 1999 were mostly roads, ports, water transfer, water treatment. He didn't do power until 1999, so check that out. So that project in Botswana, I'd like you to talk to us about. Also the project in Algeria, because it looked like a difficult project, and it was like the beginning of a sort of new era for power in Algeria. And finally, as well, the Ajman wastewater project that is really like, I think, the jewel in the crown, so to speak.
Sure.
Crown jewel. So can you tell us about these two projects?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So Mount Airport, that was 30 years ago, 1988, I think, if I remember right. Mount Airport, people may not know where Mount is. Mount is in Botswana, northern Botswana. It actually is, I think even today, it's one of the busiest airports in Africa in terms of landings and takeoff. It's an international airport, but many of the landings and takeoffs are domestic, in that they're all within the Delta. It's an area that serves a hugely popular touristic, high-value tourism place. People come in by charter flights. The only way you can move around in the Delta is by aircrafts. So that's why there's a lot of aircraft movements. And the airport has subsequently been expanded a few times. I've been to Mount, I go to Okavango. I love Okavango. So as a family, we go every few years on holiday, but so I've been there more frequently, but recently it's been expanded. But back in 1988, we had a project to take what was a fairly small airport to become a full international airport, extend the runway so that it can take 737 aircrafts, and also all the airside facilities, fire systems, and all the rest of it. And I was the project director. So that was quite an exciting project to do. I had done another, I've been involved in Mount Pleasant's International Airport as well in Mauritius, and Livingston Airport in Zambia, a couple of others. But this was the one where I was sort of as a leader, team leader, involved directly. So it was a memorable project for me, and I'm very pleased to see that it's still there. It's been expanded, of course, but anyway, so that's one. The Algerian project, so another 10 years later, 1998, well, without thinking too much, again, pretty adventurous, I guess. When I think back to it, must have been mad, but got sucked, drifted into. I mean, voluntarily did it, so I'm not blaming, and I'm so pleased I did do it. Got sucked into developing what turned out to be Algeria's first IWPP, or first privately financed water and/or power project. Sonatrach, the energy company of Algeria, and Sonal Gas, the utility, came together, and they were looking to procure the first IWPP, 300 megawatts, if I remember right, combined cycle gas-fired power plant, together with, I think it was 120,000 cubic meters, I think, or something like that. I've forgotten the details, per day of desalinated water using multi-stage flash desalination. So, and now I knew that was my first involvement in a power project, by the way. But again, I got sucked into it, and I was the developer, lead developer. Black & Veatch was an engineer contractor, but it did originate these kind of transactions hesitantly in order to give itself some business downstream, but with a view of bringing others in and passing on the equity to others. But anyway, so I got pulled in. I started to develop the project. It was a tender. We submitted the tender and we won it, much to our surprise. And this was in 1998. I don't know how many of you go back and Google it. 1998, Algeria. It was a very, very tough period for Algeria. It was struggling through Islamic fundamental terrorism. I know it's a terminology that we use today very frequently, very freely, but it was equally horrific. It was way back then, and the terrorists were targeting foreign investments. So foreigners coming into the country were very well protected by the government. That meant you were surrounded by military guards. Military guards will come and take you out of the aircraft, put you into a car, and rush you on the wrong side of the road at high speed. We used to joke that we're more likely to die of car crash than anything else. But so that's how we started. And this was the first project. And trying to put a limited recourse project finance transaction, a $300 and something million investment in that climate, and get foreign equity and debt in. When I think back to it, I must have been completely mad. But anyway, but what I've got to say is by 2001, I think, if I remember right, after 3 years of real sort of struggle and a lot of hard work, we ended up closing that job, achieving financial close, and construction got done. The plant is today operating. It's a commercial success. Black & Veatch still retains a 5% shareholding in that project. And Black & Veatch is receiving dividends. The customers are receiving the power. And that became the model for Algeria to then develop. They decided through this project, by the way, that in future they would do IPPs and IWPPs. Putting them together was much too complicated for them. So subsequently, they've gone on to do many IPPs and many IWPPs. So very proud of that project, simply because we got it done. It became a model, and it also taught me a lot of things. And it was amazing. Here was a French country. I don't speak a word of French, managed to still get it done. There you go. And then about the same time, also started to develop a wastewater transaction in United Arab Emirates. One of the smallest, and to be fair, one of the sort of, in those days, today it's very, very big and very busy, but in those days it was very small, fairly poor emirate, which was about 70,000 people, I think, if I remember right, at that time. Today it's 500,000, who relied on septic tanks and soakaways, and a hole in the ground outside, just outside the city, for the sewerage tankers to go and discharge. Not exactly the most, for a city, not exactly the most conducive, most healthy sewage disposal solution. And the lack of a sewage system, people don't realize, constrains growth, constrains economic development, constrains land development. You cannot build a tall building because you can't suck the sewage out fast enough. You can't have enough trucks every 10 minutes to come and pump it out. So you're limited in development heights. So there's a lot of constraints. Anyway, cut a long story short, we got Black & Veatch drifted again into developing a completely privately financed, on a concessionary basis project, a concession basis project, to put a network, a sewerage network, collect through pipe work, which we all take for granted, but for the first time, take it out to a site, treat it to a quality that was suitable enough to be able to then environmentally responsibly dispose it, and in fact even treat a small quantity to a level which could be reused. So it was all done as a BOO, build, own, operate structure for the first time again in Ajman. So everybody was learning, and this was, and even today probably this is one of the few greenfield. Everywhere else, you go and take an existing infrastructure that's been put in by government, and it gets privatized, and you add to it, you expand it. Here, it was brand new. Everything had to be done. All that basic infrastructure, all that expensive stuff had to be put in and had to be funded on a user-paying basis. Persuading population who just pay for tankers to now pay regularly a connection fee, and then a one-time connection fee, and then every month a service charge. So we went through all the traumas and dramas. The project failed once. It was resuscitated. Huge commercial success today. The project is gone on. It's expanded. It's a fantastic business. The lead investor there is B6, a Belgian company. Veolia is involved at a minority level, an operating partner. It's doing extremely well. I'm very happy. Learned a lot about project finance there as well. And it gave me a wonderful network of relationships with bankers, lawyers in the field. So all of these, and probably that was one of, from a career perspective, was an important transformative step for me as well.
So I was just thinking, you really learned on the job, right? Every project would teach you something new.
Absolutely. That's exactly, I mean, look, I think, I don't know. I mean, I have read a few, I think about my own career, and I've read a few autobiographies. And one of the things I think that you learn or you see as a pattern is that people don't necessarily kind of achieve or they don't go down a particular path. They don't go to university, they study something, and then they just sort of use that studies. And no, that's not life. Life is about sort of having, university teaches you a set of basic skills, a set of, it instills discipline in you. Structured thinking, various things. You then use that and apply it as you work, and go with the flow and learn on the job and keep building and going down the road as career takes you. I suppose at times you can stop and try to physically change direction. Okay, and people have achieved that and done it well. In my case, I've just followed the course and just built on it. And I think it's also true. If you do something well, you enjoy doing it, and therefore you do it very well. And because you're doing it very well, you get recognized and you get pushed into doing more by others. And it's a self-perpetuating, it's a
self-fulfilling
prophecy or whatever.
Correct. So. And it was actually your success in that project, the Ajman project, that got you to meet Mohammed Al-Bunayan, correct?
Yes, absolutely. That's, in fact, yes, you're spot on. It was Ajman. Okay, Algeria was also important because he was very curious about that. But Ajman, because why? Because this was, as I said to you, in 2001. About the same time in 2001, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia was starting to experiment with the idea of privatizing all these utilities and state-owned infrastructure and so on and so forth. And so as an experiment, Mohammed is a private businessman, very much in the water and wastewater business, power, third-generation family leader, one of the largest sort of integrated contracting equipment supply businesses, Abu Dhabi Trading. But smart guy, he could see that, this is the way to go for countries to survive, for them to take things off their balance sheet, move things to properly priced services. For properly priced services, it needs to be delivered efficiently. Recognize that private sector can deliver these things more efficiently. He was working with government, trying to persuade government also to seriously look at this type of model of contracting. And he was learning, looking around the world, understanding how this is done. When in 2001 in Saudi Arabia, unbeknown to me, the Jeddah Industrial Water Authority decided, Industrial Estates Authority, the Saudi Industrial Estates Authority had decided to invite a concession, a private BOO model contract to treat the industrial wastewater of the Jeddah industrial city, which, by the way, at that time was just running out in trenches into the sea. So there were paper and pulp mill. There was all sorts of metal, light metal industries, all sorts of things at the site. The effluent was just rushing off into the sea. So they wanted to put a proper sewage system, and they put it out into a BOT contract. Many people tendered. Mohammed partnered with somebody else, another very large industrial conglomerate by the name of Mohidibs. They just came together into a joint venture, and they, using consulting services and advisors, put together a bid and submitted, and they won it. Okay, so that was an industrial wastewater project, and here I was, unbeknown, far away, not that far away, in Ajman, not that far away from Riyadh, developing a municipal wastewater concession. In my municipal wastewater concession, I'd managed to structure it on a limited recourse project finance basis. That is, equity providers, investors coming in to put about 20% of the cost as equity, and borrowing the debt not on their balance sheet but on the basis of the project. Mohammed was trying to do the same thing, but struggled and couldn't. Eventually ended up having to finance that project 100% on the balance sheet of Abu Nayan and Mohidibs, no project finance. Okay, so he got it done. Fantastic. I mean, great achievement. But then he realized in Ajman this happened. He said, how the hell did this happen? He said, how did this guy, this poor small emirate, no government guarantee, no nothing, user paying, this is a joke. How did he manage to convince everybody to invest in this, get debt financing? So he ran around and found out, oh, there's some guy based out of London by the name of Paddy. So he kind of came knocking on my door just to want to know how it was done, trying to learn. And he also learned at that time that, oh, there was this other project done, IWPP in Algeria. So that's how he kind of chased around people and found somebody to introduce him to me. And we ended up meeting after trying to meet, and Mohammed was a very patient man, highly networked man, but a patient man. After chasing me around for about like 9 months, eventually we met in Bahrain. Supposedly I had 1 hour. I ended up spending about 6 hours with him because he's that kind of a guy. he just asks questions and gets you involved. And we got to know each other. And we started to become friends. He would come and consult with me, meet me in London, have dinner, get to know me. And I was very excited about what he was doing, trying to create this business. No interest in Saudi Arabia as far as I'm concerned. Thank you very much back then. You know, I had my work and he was doing this. But he wanted help. Gave him whatever introductions that I could do in the universe of development partners and so on and so forth. And along the way, even connected him up with our consulting business unit in Black & Veatch to provide consulting engineering services to the newly formed company, ACWA Power. It was called ACWA Power Projects Limited, I think. So that's how you know, our relationship started. Yeah, you're right.
But you met more times, correct?
Oh, I think between 2003 and 2004, over a period of 18 months, Mohammed and I interacted with, you know, he kept finding me maybe about a dozen times. And typically, I mean, because I'm traveling all the time, he's also traveling. We'd either meet in London. I used to have an office near Victoria Gardens, and he would come and visit with me there, or I would bump into him in Dubai, Bahrain, wherever, and would sort of, you know, would either meet or have dinner or whatever. And all the time, and there came a time when, okay, so in 2004, June, I think, July, I had decided I'm going to step out of Black & Veatch, take this early retirement. And I agreed with my company that I would manage out the existing stuff nicely over the next sort of 6 to 9 months and phase out. So during that period, I didn't necessarily publicize it, but at the same time, I would become a good enough friend. I suggested to him, I mentioned to him one time that, by the way, you're going to start hearing it, but I'm stepping out and this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to Africa. I'm going to do this. He said, you're a crazy guy. What are you doing? Nonsense. Come, please. You've got to come and join me. You know, I have this dream. I said, well, fine. Keep your dream. More than happy to help you, but sorry. I've got my plan.
It was the first time, but not the last. You said
that was the first time. No. Mohammed is a very persistent guy. Oh man, maybe about a dozen times. He kept pestering, and then I think he found a clever way. You know, my wife said to me then itself in the early days, she said, "Watch out, watch out. I know where this is going to end up." Okay, you know, women's intuition, I guess, but absolutely right she was. But I didn't take it seriously. Anyway, so he started asking for help in that first project that ACWA Power was developing by the name of Shuaiba. He started to get me involved by, you know, can you please join me at this negotiation session? Can you please attend this sort of bankers discussion? Just as a favor, help, because I need help. And I know you can. And I said, yeah, okay, fine. I had the time. He was a good guy. And so I started to put my head into the noose, so to speak. And absolute classic case of getting so involved in something so fantastic, just never stopping to think twice, and just rolling. Even then, my true intent, and you know, Mohammed will vouch for it, and a couple of others who worked with us at that time will vouch for it, was just wrap this up, get Shuaiba done, achieve financial close, and I'm gone. Back to, so in the meantime, I had actually bought my African consulting business. I sort of handed over responsibility to a good friend of mine in South Africa and said, keep an eye on this, please. A few months, I'll be back. And there you go, got stuck. That was 2004, end of 2004 into 2005.
So you started doing a project, and then you were as a favor doing the next, and then as a favor doing the next, and then pretty much you were working full time, but you were still doing favors. You still weren't getting paid, right?
No, I didn't want to get paid. That's another interesting, you know, okay, fine. You know, this is my stupid philosophy, I guess, but, you know, maybe there's a method in this madness. No, I said to myself, I said, look, because I was so intent. Look, I mean, I had a plan, and I was going to stick to that plan. And this was just an aberration. So here I was getting involved in, so I'd done the Shuaiba project, and as I'm doing the Shuaiba project, I get sucked into, the second project comes along, Petrorabic, sorry. IWSP, water, power, and steam. Get involved in that and get involved in structuring the third and the fourth project with assembling the partnership, negotiating with, in those days, GDF Suez for Marafiq and GIC, starting to work with Mitsubishi Heavy Industries in putting together the technical solution for Shuaiba, looking at the partner. I was flying up, down, London, back to Riyadh, but now I started to go to Riyadh. You know, that was the other one-way street, getting sucked in. For like few months, couple of months down the road, Mohammed said to me one day, he said, by the way, please, we need to agree your remuneration. I said, no, sorry. Forget this. I said, what do you mean, forget this? I said, look, you asked me for help. I'm helping you. I'm done. As soon as I'm done, I'm going to be gone anyway. Good luck. I'm so pleased. ACWA has been set up. Great. Off you go. I said, no, you're crazy. You're insulting me. You know, how can you work and not? I said, forget. If you feel really insulted, please, that's fine. You know, make my day. I'm gone now. I said, no, Paddy, please. Anyway, so this drama went on for months. Because in my mind, I said, look, I'm not here because I'm getting paid. I'm here. I'm enjoying it. I have a commitment. I've given the commitment to my friend that I would get it done. That was it. I don't need a piece of paper. I don't need, it's okay. And to be fair, it's not that I'm a rich guy, but okay, you know, I was sort of, you know.
You were gone, right? You were like, okay.
You know, it was fine. I was enjoying it and that was it. It was a good experience. I put it down to it and moved on. But, and this went on. And then, of course, you know, 18 months later, I think, if I remember right. Exactly.
He called your wife. He called your wife.
No, it wasn't he called. My wife was telling me in the meantime, you know, Linda was saying, I'm back in London, back and forth. And she would say, what the hell are you doing? You know, you're not even getting paid, by the way, I know. So I said, Linda, if I do, it's a problem. So forget about it. It's okay. I'm going to wrap it up. No, this is never going to happen. Anyway, cut a long story short, there came a time when we actually did have to sit down and agree a remuneration plan. Okay, fine. We agreed a remuneration plan. Got so wrapped up in work, forgot about it. 2007, I think. 2005. 2000, either end of 2000. No, it was, I think, 2007, early 2007. When one day Mohammed came rushing into my office in Riyadh and said, what are you doing?
Give me your bank account details.
Paid. You've not been paid. Are you crazy? I said, Mohammed, relax. It's okay. It's me, right? I'm the one who should be excited, not you. He said, no, I'm very concerned. What happens if I don't pay you now? I said, well, you know what? Put it down to life's experiences and I'll be gone. So don't worry about this. He said, no, now. Give me your bank account details. Well, how many of you carry bank account details in your wallet? I'm sorry, I don't. Anyway.
It's different now because we have apps in our phones. But yeah, I see what you're saying.
No, I don't. Anyway, so I said, sorry, I don't have it. Call your wife now. Let's call now. So anyway, cut a long story short, I got paid eventually. But
and it must have been a really nice payday.
It was. My wife was happy. I was happy, to be fair. No.
Back for so many months. But this was not the only time that happened. I think you were one of the last people to find out you were the CEO of ACWA Power as well, right?
Yeah. So 2008, late 2007, by now we had become a 50 people, 45 people company. We just brought people on, okay? We didn't have any structure, whatever. And now we needed to start organizing ourselves properly. Brought in some management consultants. We work with them and put a structure together. Very conventional structure, just like what any organization structure looks like. President, CEO, head of business development, head of this, CFO, all the rest of it, right? Great. So having done that, sat down with Mohammed and said, right, Mohammed, we're going to get a CEO soon. You know, please, let's work on that. He said, no, Paddy, what are you talking about? I said, no, Mohammed, I am not going to be the CEO. We are going to find a CEO. You and me can work together on this, but please, this person needs to be there for a decade. And you got to find the right person. It's not me. I'm not cut out. That just jumped out from a large corporation, for goodness sake. Forget about it. Okay. He argued a bit more. I left him, walked away. A couple of hours later, I get told by one of my colleagues that, congratulations. I said, excuse me? President and CEO? Didn't you see the email? This was before BlackBerry, so I didn't have it in my hand. I had to rush back to my office to look at the desk laptop. And sure enough, there's an email announcing this to the world. I go downstairs. I take a print and go downstairs and say to Mom, "What are you doing?" "Paddy, you're the guy who's got the capacity, capability. You brought us here. Let's work together. We've got dreams to build." There you go.
So you definitely, I don't know if drifting is the right word, but like you go from challenge to challenge. You're just looking for the challenges and they kind of fall on your lap. So, but because
it's been fun. I don't regret any of it.
No, absolutely. And this is, like I said, the world's most unusual CEO appointment. But 9 months later, ladies and gentlemen, actually doing an audit, they found out that Paddy didn't have a contract. So
yes.
that had to be sorted out as well, because now he was getting paid and he was the CEO, but no contract, right? So you had to also formalize that.
Not a good corporate governance structure. We had a lot of corporate governance. That was a crazy thing. So we had lots of rules by then and everything was being organized. And there was me breaking the biggest rule. That was not smart. So I had to, I had just let it drift because it wasn't an issue. It wasn't a priority. I had my obligation. I was going to do it. It was more about, it wasn't about a piece of paper. But there you go. But I do respect and recognize it's all got to be done properly. So I did immediately regularize it. And we're all very, very, very compliant. And
regular now. I was going to say, this is how startups go, right? I mean, things that you just get on with the job and that's what you're doing full time. And the other things like secondary.
Correct. And fortunately, we were able to attract, and we've retained a lot of them from those days, a whole bunch of people who are very similar to us. That's really what has allowed us to get to where we have got to.
And this is one of the things we've discussed in the past, Paddy. We don't have a lot more time, but I wanted to ask, we've discussed many times that you're growing really, really fast now, and you're, possibly going through an IPO soon. So there is this whole thing of growing fast, but not fat, and making sure that you keep that sort of like identity of the startup. And how are you guys planning to do that going forward? Because it can be an easy challenge.
I agree with you. I mean, this is the biggest challenge. So, I mean, okay, so what sets ACWA apart? And quite frankly, I think I've done a lot of things in my life. I've been very fortunate, been given a lot of opportunity. But the one that I probably single out as the biggest achievement for me, which actually is linked to ACWA Power and the business model of ACWA Power, which has also allowed us, in my belief, to do what we have done, is that from day one, I managed to develop and shape a business model that was centered on not market pricing electricity and desalinated water. Very different from conventional thinking of a contractor. A contractor wants to win by the smallest margin with the next competitor so that you have maximum profit. Well, from day one, I convinced myself for a variety of reasons, and I think probably don't have time to wade into too many of those reasons, but that from a sustainability point of view, getting our investment back over 20 to 25 years, the tariff that we contracted upfront needed to be relevant for 20 to 25 years. And therefore, the best way of achieving that relevancy over such a long period of time was to keep it as low as possible, humanly low as possible from day one. It doesn't mean subsidizing. That means getting a reasonable return for the risks that you are taking, a meaningful return, but focusing on minimizing cost. Now, in developing a power plant and operating it, we're not in control of all the costs. We're only in control of the equity return that we choose how much of return we want the equity we invest. We price the operation and maintenance, and we put the margin on that. So those are the only two things that we actually control. But a lot of money is, a lot of the part of the tariff is in the capex, getting the plant provided for, designed and built, and in financing the plant, getting the project financed, and the interest and all that, and in a whole lot of other things, even insurances. These are all big money pieces. So it's about somehow working with your supply chain and convincing everybody, don't guesstimate, don't estimate, don't market price anything. Do the detailed design, understand the risks, really break it down, put it all and value it properly, minimize the cost from the supply chain, design everything in as much of a detail as possible, and keep it as tight as possible, put the margin, and let's build up bottom up. And whatever price, we tender. Well, when we use that model, it's amazing the price difference between us and the second bidder. Over 28 or something, 30 something bids, different countries, different technologies, different capacities. We have consistently won with anything from 5% to one project was 31% tariff difference between our bid and the second bid. On a 20-year contract, 4,000 megawatt combined cycle gas-fired power plant, dispatching 4,000 megawatts for 20 years, 26% tariff difference between us and the next represents $900 million difference in net present value. That's a saving our client got. But we have no issue because we are getting our return. Our contractor built the plant and made his profit. If he didn't make his profit, that was his fault. But as it happened, all these guys are working with us again. They would not work with us if they're not making the returns that they are making. So this particular model is what has allowed us to be the price setter, the cost leader, which in the era of renewables has allowed us to lead renewable energy, price setting, drive the cost down to a level which has allowed definitely solar to be deployed at an accelerated rate across the world, simply because of us continuing to challenge the price. So we're the holders of the lowest PV price, we're the holders of the lowest CSP. We brought CSP to become a relevant technology because CSP was hovering at 40 cents or something like this. And we brought it down in one project into 19 cents, and we're now right down in Dubai at 7.3 cents, 24-hour renewable energy, dispatch day and night. So this is a fantastic achievement. But when I come down to it, okay, so that methodology, convincing everybody to do that was very important, and I'm very proud of it, very happy. But this is not about me achieving that. I couldn't have done it without having a whole bunch of people at ACWA who bring a level of ingenuity, entrepreneurship, amazing amount of hard work, understanding this very simple business model, and then implementing it. So now, of course, as we do more and more, as this become a public knowledge, which
competition has gone up, of course.
No problem. That's okay. But so for us, the answer is continuing to have more and more people who are above average, who are passionate, who are committed to this business model, who are committed to winning and making a difference. So long as we can continue to keep attracting them, I'm convinced we can still keep staying ahead of the competition. And competition is good. That's what's going to keep us honest and keep progressing down the track. So coming back to the question of, this is what makes a difference. How are we going to keep it going? And as we go and become bigger and bigger and bigger, that struggle is making sure that the bureaucracy doesn't stifle us. So we get smart about minimizing rules, boundaries, regulations, compliance. Compliance is important. From the earliest days, we also understood that the best way to manage risk is by being transparent. If you hide something, hoping it's going to go away, it never goes away, it becomes a big risk. So we've got a culture in here also where people talk very openly. We put every day there's a problem, we put it out there, and then it gets solved, it gets dealt with. So the combination of that culture and a level of rules and regulations and compliance systems is what will save us and will take us forward. But it is a challenge, making sure that we don't go too far. We don't stifle entrepreneurship in the process.
And I suppose you constantly have to be like checking, for those, I don't know, like the fat.
Absolutely. Because, because you're bringing a lot of people, not necessarily everybody jumps into this on day one. It takes them time to understand it. But in the meantime, they come and they say, man, this place is a madhouse. How is this possible? And then they start to put the rules. Say, no, sorry, back off. It's too much. Oh, we must have triple level of due diligence on something. No, sorry, you don't need it. These guys are smart enough. So all the time, you've got to be constantly vigilant about making sure that that your model remains sacrosanct and that the newcomers adopt that model and don't create unnecessary tensions. But we've got a great team, and we're continuing to add to it. And it's a fantastic, thriving environment.
So thank you very much for giving that explanation. And I think the competition is going to get tough, and I'm going to look forward to you guys overcoming and just sticking to your guns and keep doing things better and getting those costs down. And we have to go. But I always I don't know, you guys may not know Paddy, maybe you've never spoken to him. So you know, for a technology guy, he's not very technological. So I always like to tell this to people. Here's your phone, Paddy.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, okay, fine. There you go. That's a phone. It works.
Why don't you believe in smartphones? Paddy's the only...
No. Look, I think smartphones, I've got to ask the question. So how many of you really use even 90% of the skills of that smartphone? This one has got 2 SIM cards. It's got a battery life of 5 days. I use it a lot. It works. It's reliable. No issue whatsoever. Okay, fine. I can't.
You have another though, yeah?
I do have another one. Yeah, fine. Because of course I've got to deal with emails. I've got to do. So yes, I do have one of those, So yeah, I do have my smartphone, but I use it only for, it's a BlackBerry as well, by the way. And I use it for emails. And that's it. Mainly. So there you go.
Yeah. So what I find really funny, every time I meet Paddy somewhere, he's like, oh, I hate this thing. So I always I understand, they're bugging you. And I asked him last time, what was the last time you took a selfie? And he was like, I've never taken a selfie. But that's now changed, has it, Paddy?
Yes, it has changed. So for a long time, I had this thing, and I never, I used to carry a camera, but I would never carry one of these things. I would never think about using this to take selfies, and I couldn't understand.
We're bringing you to 2018 now.
I know. Thank you very much. No problem. And fortunately, I've got granddaughters. I've got an 8-year-old, 6-year-old, and a 3-year-old, and they're always reminding me about smartphones and everything else, and they're also laughing about my little phone. And of course, they are very much into all these things, including selfies. So yeah. So
show us the selfie.
Well, okay. So you had asked me the question earlier on, when did I last take a selfie? Well, as it happens, I was home on Sunday, and I took a selfie with my granddaughter. So there you go. I can take a selfie, and there it is, and that's my youngest granddaughter.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. I'm glad to see that your technology, is expanding, and I mean, children love this kind of thing so much.
Sure,
thank you very much, Paddy. It's been great spending time, and actually 59 minutes. So I'm delivering you right on time for your next meeting, which I know you have another one right now. Thank you very much for everybody that is also joined us, and it's been a pleasure and an honor and a privilege to be able to talk to you about this very personal and what got you here, to this amazing point, and to really become so key and important in developing this really important company in the industry. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. It's been great pleasure talking to you. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. See you soon. Bye.